everybody and welcome to today's video. Today I'm dressed in green. It's the end of placement. I think it's pretty clear as to what's coming next. Today's video is all about my second year placement experience. Without further ado, let's get started. So of course I've already realised that my board over there is wrong. It should say second year because this is my third placement that I've just finished. Yeah, but never mind. I'm just going to go for it anyway. This video is going to be, I don't know, let's just paper. Right. Of course, this placement was 10 weeks long, so I've had to write stuff down because I just would have forgotten everything otherwise. And this video is just, you know, something for me to look back on when I'm in third year, because I've looked back on my first two when I was like starting this placement. So yeah, right, let's do logistics first. So it was 10 weeks long. I started the 4th of Jan and I actually finished about the 8th or 9th. But I've had so many troubles with filming, so it's just gonna go up whenever it goes up. My setting, I was in a hospital setting. Never been in a hospital setting for placement before. I've never actually spent any long period of time in a hospital, either because I've had no family, thankfully, in a hospital for an extended period of time, or myself, I've never really been in. So, yeah. The ward that I was on was a rehab ward, which also dealt with complex discharge. So, rehab, like, you know, rehabilitating a patient, getting them back on their feet or whatever, and complex discharge can be, it's just an array of different things. So if a patient's home environment isn't suitable for them anymore, they might come to our ward, and we'd then find either a equipment that we could put in place, or we could at least refer them on, and whilst work was getting done they could stay there, or all number of things. But yeah, complex discharge / rehab. The ward had OTs, physios, GTAs, which stands for generic therapy assistant. It also had, those were basically my team. It also had like sister nurse, like staff nursing, HCAs, which stands for healthcare assistant, who kind of do like all the nursing jobs that nurses used to do but no longer the NHS pay for a qualified person to do. They also had like a consultant once a week and a ward doctor, and obviously all of the other staff which are important but often get forgotten about, like the domestic staff, the porters, and things like that. This placement I commuted to, so I got my hire car, and a video has hopefully gone up about Exodus, as I called him. So I drove to placement and back every day, and I'm not going to admit, and I am going to admit, it was difficult, but thankfully I quite like driving, and I definitely feel that from driving I've learned a lot. And feel now as well more confident as a driver. I felt confident before, but definitely feel that I'm doing the right things now when I'm driving. And yeah, and so it did make my days pretty long. I had to leave quite early and got back relatively sort of late. And with that obviously meant I had to go to bed earlier, but actually I quite liked it because it was like a set routine, and you just got used to it. And I do quite like driving, and had like weekly phone calls to friends, hands free. I quite like the fact that I could Bluetooth my phone up to the car and I wouldn't have to worry about anything. You know, it would sync up all the music, and I wouldn't have to touch my phone, so I left it in my bag or whatnot, which was really good too. And it's definitely something I'm gonna miss about not having that feature on the vehicle that I drive at home. But nevertheless, it was a good drive, and I got used to the road, so it was fine. I did, however, have 2 snow days, because it was such a long drive, and the weather was a bit hit and miss, and we got some snow, and because my job isn't imperative for patient safety, and because it was so far away, I made the decision not to drive into placement on those days. It also wouldn't have been possible to me to drive there because the roads or whatnot were shut, or there'd been accidents or anything else. That's what I did. I had 2 snow days and I was sick for 2 days as well. I was ill, and so obviously if you're ill as a healthcare person, you're not supposed to go in because you risk of transferring that on to patients. So my average day, okay, so here's my average day. Start at 8:30, had a ward round where you sort of discuss all of the patients, what you're doing with them, have they been ill overnight, things like that, new patients. Get on with seeing patients, do different things, maybe have an environmental visit where you would go out, myself or an OT or whatever, with a therapy assistant, go out to patient's home, review the environment and suggest any or advise of any adaptations, and then come back to the ward and feed back to the patient. Then it was 12 o'clock was patient's lunchtime, and they have protected meal times. So it was very much that's a note writing or report writing time. Then at 12:30 it's our lunch time till 1. Then 1 o'clock we had a huddle, which is again like reviewing, have you seen all the patients to make sure we've got the patients seen that need to be seen like first thing, or making sure that everybody is being seen basically, and also reviewing anything that might have happened, if a patient's circumstances changed, if they've been transferred to a different ward, or have gone, I don't know, have had to have some emergency thing done or gotten worse over the day or anything like that. And yeah, and then the day would finish at around about 4:30. And every week on a Thursday we had an MDT, which stands for Multidisciplinary Team Meeting, and yeah, that's what we do. So that was my typical day. So obviously I was there for such a long period of time, so what I did change dramatically over those 10 weeks. At first I was sort of getting used to settling in, getting to grips with the place, learning how a hospital worked, seeing all the different things, where things were kept, like the sluice and the bathrooms, and like spare linen and sheets and stuff, because you know, when you're seeing a patient you have to change their sheets sometimes, or if you're doing a washing and dressing assessment, then this bed needs making anyway, so you just do it. It's all about like that communal working together, getting the jobs done, regardless of your, I don't know, job role or job title or whatever. You just do what needs to be done. So yeah, so that was kind of the first week, getting to grips with the hospital and the team, and just learning things and watching things happen and seeing how things are done. In the sort of middle section, I'm going to call it, I started to sort of get to grips with things. I started to do my own sort of assessments with patients, and I even worked on a Saturday. I did some further training whilst I was there, on a piece of equipment called a hover jack, which literally, it's amazing. It literally looks like 4 airbeds piled on top of each other that you blow up if a patient falls over. So if a patient falls, you put the hover jack under them, you blow it up so it lifts them up, and then you can the patient can either sit up from there, or you can slide sheet them back onto bed, transferring them that way or whatever. But it's an amazing piece of equipment. So I did training on that, which was very useful because we had quite a high falls risk ward. Quite a lot of patients fell sometimes, and this isn't anything to do with like the service or anything to do with the ward that I was on. It's just we had a high number of patients that were high falls risks, and some of them had dementia and stuff, so we would be with a different patient and then they'd get out of bed, and they'd forget to use like a frame or something, and therefore they'd fall over. And these things aren't necessarily just to do with that, like that ward. It's not a bad thing, and often pretty much every single patient that fell was never injured, thankfully, but these things sadly do happen, which is why they've got the equipment, and I don't honestly think it could have been done any differently to prevent the patients falling. There was no obvious reason as to why they fell sometimes. So yeah, and so I did the Saturday working as well, and sort of by the end of the placement, sort of the last couple of weeks, that chunk, I started to sort of get my own really mini caseload. So I sort of had 2 patients sometimes who I would sort of focus my attention on. So one patient was a matter of they just literally needed an initial assessment and 2 pieces of equipment and they wanted to be discharged that day. Other patients were slightly more complicated, but they really weren't that complicated. But where they needed a prolonged period of rehab. I loved it so much. I really liked this placement. It was honestly really eye-opening and so much learning and really good fun at times as well. And probably the highlight, and you know, I did there was many highlights. You know, the team, spending some time in the community, spending some time on a different ward, but the highlight has got to be that I was able to see a total hip replacement surgery. That was amazing, and I don't want to go into it too much, but I saw it from start to finish. So the patient sort of was in the anaesthetic room. I was all geared up. They came in and I saw, you know, the incisions were made and the hip was then dislocated and then a new one was put in with the drill in and the hammer in, and then the cement and the glue that they used, and then it was put back into place and then it was all stitched up. And then I even got a chance to see the patient the next day, which was amazing, and see them up and about on their feet, and did some I did stair practice with them with other people there as well, and saw them walking, got them off a frame onto 2 crutches and 1 crutch because they were really good. They were amazing how quick their recovery was, but definitely a highlight. I had so much, it was just amazing and I was loving it the whole time. Various different patients I dealt with, some with like dementia, some that had a hip replacement and weren't as good as the one that I just described, some that were falls risk, some that had delirium post-op or anything like that. This placement has really truly been such an amazing eye-opening experience. Doing things like washing and dressing assessments, initial assessments, to like mobility, to environmental, to even just delivering equipment. It's really been truly really good, and I am so grateful that I was able to do it. And I'm kind of sad that it's over as well, because now I have to go back to uni and that's depressing, but never mind. That's it. I don't want to make this video far too long, so I'm going to finish the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the other ones. I'll post them somewhere. I think it's that way, but it's probably that way. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye!